Talk. Okay. Well, hey, good morning and welcome to live streaming of our podcast, Person to Person. I am your host, Michael Harris. Gary Stone will not be with us today. Maybe he'll be able to join us a little bit later. But as you know, Gary is really caught up in taking care of his wife, Claudia, much like I am, and taking care of my wife, Diana Yvonne. And we try to do these podcast live streams at least twice a week because we had been doing radio here in Houston. In fact, we first worked together back in 1974 at KIK Radio over in Pasadena. I was a kicker for a while. Never thought I'd end up working in country and western, but since I was raised on country and western music up in East Texas, it wasn't alien to me. I just never thought it would happen. But thanks to the changes in this great nation of ours, we were able to desegregate and do some things. Now what I'd like to do today is to talk to you about things that are of importance to you. Um, you know what? My daughter Alessandra is working with me, and we will be taking calls. You know, I have forgotten what that number is again, and of course, what did I didn't move anything.
It was hanging up.
It was hanging up somewhere, and so we'll have to find the number. Needless to say, we are still in our formative stages. But the only way that you get better is to practice.
Show up.
Yeah, and show up for practice. Do this, that, and the other. And I have not been doing extremely well at that lately. Been having a few minor health issues. And as we all live, we face those challenges. America is facing some major challenges now. Polo, I am trying to work. This is Crystal's dog, her second dog, my grand dog. And this poor fellow needs a lot of attention. Tidbit, the firstborn of her dogs, doesn't need that attention. Tidbit is a lot more independent. But we'll be getting to that number. But so much is going on in the world today that I thought that it would be good to go on and do a little something anyway to try to keep our schedule going. We're trying to go live at least twice a week. And as things grow, we might be able to expand to every day. But what we knew, now it says one action's needed, that is to close unused applications. I don't know what unused apps there are. You see the thing there. But anyway, we're just, I'm a little perplexed. I don't know what, and none of us really know. The president doesn't know. The Congress, the Senate and the congressmen, they don't know what all of this that has happened with the Iranians, mixing up the time. At one time it was Saddam Hussein in Iraq. Now it is the U.S. bombing in Iran. And it's just so much going on in the world. Earlier this week, well no, it was late last week, I did a post of one of my old friends. She's a bit older. She was my Aunt Nevro and Uncle Quincy's contemporary, Henrietta McLemore. We saw her on Channel 11. She lives over in Missouri City. And we have all of these places in Houston where seniors are underprivileged people live. And we're finding out that many of them are not getting the care, the service that they want, the services that they were promised, and the services that they need. Air conditioning units don't work. Sometimes their water isn't working. For those seniors who are living in high rises, their elevators don't work, and there seems to be little, well, no to little, or if any efforts to help them. And in the case where Henrietta lives, I think that's been going on for close to 2 months now. But while we can't help our senior citizens, we can fly across the world and drop bombs in order to stop Iran from having, uh, I guess, nuclear, a nuclear capacity. And I don't think that necessarily either one of them is wrong, but I do think that as much care for the people who are citizens of this country and protecting us from unscrupulous, uncaring business people should be as important. And I want to applaud the local media for talking about these things, but we need to find some sort of way of making our government much more active in protecting the rights of the underprivileged. The president has what he calls a big, beautiful tax bill that he wants passed that will cut the tax rate for the richest of the rich, but it will increase the tax rate on the poorest of the poor, of those of us who are marginal. So there are plenty of things to discuss if you would like to do so. The number here is 832-564-9609. 832-564-9609. I saw on the news this morning James Harden is in the news. The former Houston Rocket. Harden has been in and out of the news in Houston for a long time. And one thing that I know, that we know, that when we do something good, it doesn't necessarily make the news. But when we're accused of doing something bad or being involved in something that's bad, it makes the news. This story says that one of Harden's nephews may have sexually assaulted someone at his Houston home. And of course, his picture is the one, that is flashed. I don't even know if they called the name of the accused nephew, but the media is still pretty good at making sure that when a black person of note is supposedly involved in something that may well, not be the kind of thing that you would want exposed, they are sure, they are quick in order to make sure that people know that we have been accused of a crime or that something unsavory has happened. It's just the way that, that's just the way that it is. Again, the number here is 832-564-9609. Now, do I believe that the U.S. should have attacked uh, the nuclear projects in Iran? I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I'm opposed to how it was done without the approval of Congress, because those congressional representatives are there to represent us and to make sure that the will of the people is what is being done by the United States government. I don't believe that our President Donald John Trump, should have the authority to do some things that could get us involved in a world war. Now, supposedly, and that's supposedly because we don't know what the Iranians are actually thinking, but we could become involved in another war. And my brother was a Vietnam veteran, came home disabled, and I hate to say it, but he lived a very miserable life for the remainder of his time, and he lived to be 69 years old, but much of it was in hounds for what would you call it, disabled veterans, and it was not a nice life. We visited him, once a week or so, but he could never get over the fact that he was no longer able to live a normal life in society. And so when we start thinking about these types of conflicts, think of the thousands who may lose their lives. Now, I know we have to think of the thousands who may lose their lives if Iran were to, uh, I guess, start a war with us using nuclear weapons. A shout out to my old friend Tom Overton. Hey, Tom. Tom is up there in Corsicana, the home of Navarro. Navarro, is it Navarro College? Navarro Junior College? My daughter went to Navarro, was a national championship cheerleader up in Navarro. Oh, Mayor Sandra Massey Hines says the wicked and hate, reproof, D. Trump disrespects people, the Constitution, the Supreme Court, and any rules of law. Ms. Hines, Mayor Hines, feel free to call. Talk to us. 832-564-9609. 832-564-9609. My co-host, my sidekick, Gary is not with us today. Alessandra is here, but Alessandra doesn't like to talk a whole bunch. Oh, yes, she does. She just doesn't like talking to me a whole bunch. Isn't that right, kitten? Oh, talk to Polo. Her dog loves me. Anyway, that is the number here. And a lot of stuff is going on in Houston. Uh, Teacher pay raises uh, up 11% since the takeover. It those kinds of stories again. What does that reflect? Does it reflect an unwillingness of the state of Texas to pump money into the HISD, or is it the willingness of the state of Texas to pump money into the HISD when it is doing what they, the state of Texas, wants it to do, rather than focusing on the true needs of the children? If you'll note under the new programs, many of the things that benefited the poorest children are, I guess, kind of devalued, while they are focusing more on test scores and all of that. Well, if you're sending a hungry child to school, or a child who doesn't have proper clothing and things like that, that lowers that child's ability, or negatively affects their ability to learn. And when you take out the love and support that many of the schools were trying to give to these children, and take away so many of their freedoms, um, it could impact those who need the help the most. And so I, applaud the fact that test scores are up. At least they say the test scores are up. But I do not applaud the way that the government has taken away help from the neediest of the needy. Oh boy, we just live in trying times. Another good thing that's happened is that Houston Community College is now Houston City College. They're going to be offering bachelor's degrees. I don't know whether they'll be offering master's or other advanced degrees, but more affordable education is needed. And for those of you who can't afford Texas Southern, Rice, the University of Houston, Houston Baptist, no, it's Houston Christian now, and St. Thomas, and the other colleges and universities that are here. Now it's Houston City College. Now, of course, they say Houston teacher pay is up, and I'm happy for the teachers. Hopefully, they will take care of the retired teachers as well. You know, my wife Yvonne is a retired teacher. Again, the number here is 832-564-9609. And so if you have something that you would like to talk with us about, are we podcasting today as well?
It's the same thing.
Oh, it's the same thing. Okay, how is it the same thing, my dear?
Because we'll pull the audio
And we'll pull
and
it.
then just put it up on the podcast.
Okay, you put the audio and the video on the podcast, or is it just the audio?
No, a podcast is normally just audio, but you add a video element to it.
Oh, okay.
But right now, as we navigate and, just figure out a better cadence, right now we're just, being consistent, showing up, just so that people can get used to knowing when to expect you all.
Okay, well, when to expect us.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you may not be able to tell, but I'm having some health issues as well, and but in a little bit of pain right now. Maybe this wasn't the best idea to try to go ahead with the podcast or the Facebook Live. But if we're going to build something, we do have to sacrifice and try to make things work. And so we are out here, and again, we would love to
Unknown caller.
hear from you. Now, that is not the right thing, is it? They're not calling the right number.
What you mean?
Okay.
That's somebody calling you.
Yeah, that was somebody calling me on my phone. And so we ended that real quick. All right, Polo. Come on, Polo. We need to well, let's talk a little bit about the 18th Congressional District. Maybe we should do that. How about that? Now, I don't live in the 18th, but ever since I've been in Houston, almost, the 18th Congressional District has been a majority black district, and it has been represented by the likes first of Barbara Jordan, followed by Mickey Leland, who was followed by Craig Washington, who was followed by Sheila Jackson Lee, who was followed by Sylvester Turner, and after Sylvester Turner, his daughter was no, not his daughter, Sheila's daughter, right? And then after Sheila's daughter, we are now at an impasse because the governor has not called a special election. He has chosen to play politics with the 18th Congressional District and not fill the seat until when I think like September of this year. And that is a political stunt in order to hurt Democratic representation in the Congress of the United States. And it is, I won't say humorous, but it is funny that he would deny the people of the 18th the right to choose someone to represent them in the Congress of the United States. But seeing that he is a MAGA Republican, it is not unexpected. And I just wonder, when will a push come? And I don't know where that push would come from, but when will a push come to make the United States actually a nation that is for liberty and justice for all? If a convicted felon, like our president, Donald John Trump can serve in the office of the presidency and actually violate constitutional or long accepted constitutional rules and make moves that the Congress is supposed to make moves on. And the Supreme Court, in too many cases it seems, simply allows him to do it. We are in threat of losing our democracy and turning rather than have a government that has checks and balances and has rules and regulations. The more we flaunt those rules and regulations, the more we tend to put our democracy at risk. I know that many of you may not be as concerned as I am about this, but I tell you, as I get older, and you look to the future, you start to wonder, what will we have when we have a government that is, and the president that's pushing a so-called big, beautiful bill that cuts taxes on billionaires, multi-billionaires, cut their taxes, but at the same time raise the tax rates for the poorest of the poor. Just doesn't make sense. You give more to the haves, and you take more from the have-nots. These are all things that we certainly could, talk about. Again, the number 832-564-9609. Of course, as I pointed out, I don't have Gary here to do a call-in response from, or we talk to each other. It is going to be up to you to give me a call and talk to me.
Just wanted to confirm that the special election is going to be for November 4th.
Did I say September?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you, Crystal. The old man, Alessandra Crystal Yvonne Harris. She likes Alessandra now. I gave her that name. Now she's using
No,
it.
I liked it originally, but people were lazy.
Oh, people were lazy. Okay. Anyway, the number 832-564-9609. Wanda Coleman uh, Boudreaux has joined us. She says she's concerned as well. And Tom says he hears me and thanks. Well, uh, pick up your telephone, 832-564-9609. 832-564-909. Now, getting back to this James Harden thing, um, I guess Harden hasn't done anything good lately, because lately all the news that has surrounded him has been, uh, I think he was being sued for somebody supposedly drinking at his club and being overserved. I don't know how that came out. Do you know about that, Alessandra?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
But I didn't even know about what you mentioned. So it says here that one of the headlines is that James Harden sued for negligence and alleged sexual assault committed by nephew at Houston Mansion. Just to give context, it highlights on December 31st, court records said the woman filing the suit and two of her friends went to a gentleman's club called, won't say the name, where they spotted Harden in the club's VIP section. Soon after, the group learned there would be an after party at Harden's home. At the mansion, court documents state how the women, were inspected by Harden's security team and directed to a studio in the home where Harden and other guests are hanging out. They also noticed that other women had passed out in the home. Court records said the women were approached by Justice Armani Blackburn, Harden's nephew. Blackburn offered the three women a drink from a bottle he was holding, and they each drank a small amount. From there, one of the women told investigators her memory became hazy and she felt as though she was fading in and out of consciousness, and unable to speak clearly. Well, you know where that goes. So, continuing on, it's just a short reference just in case people aren't aware. Um, I think that the conversation worth having, you know, to take away from, it being James Harden is just going along with discussing consent, discussing choices, discussing celebrity status and proximity and, the responsibility that comes with vetting, per se. Um, certain things that you involve yourself in. Just to make it more broader and not really about James Harden, it's not enough.
Well, if it weren't about James Harden, it wouldn't be on the news.
Right, but it's, just having a discussion about that conversation.
Okay, certainly we can talk about it. The first thing is, did it happen? You know, uh, were they given something to overly intoxicate them? What would you call that? Or did they simply drink too much and make bad decisions?
Mm-hmm.
As a man, um, and as a man who has been, falsely accused of sexual assault, uh, yeah, I know that it happens. I know that there are bad people in the world, but I also know that there are people out there who target people as well. And, it's tough. It really is tough. And then um, if somebody, if his nephew, I think they said it was to have done that, uh, why do you sue Harden?
Because um, potentially, if that is the case, it's where it was held at as far as the location and if the property was in his name.
Okay, so now we've had birthday parties here,
Mm-hmm.
and so if I invite somebody, or you invite, or Yvonne invites somebody to a party, even if it's not a relative, or we'll just say a relative, and one of our relatives happens to give somebody a Mickey, am I responsible? Should I be held responsible for that and be sued for it and have my name dragged through the mud for something that one of my relatives did at my house without my knowledge? Now, it's one thing if I had been advised and I consented. That, for me, is why I'm asking, why is, the Harden thing so, why is his name so prominent? It may have allegedly happened at his house, but I doubt very seriously if he um, would want that to happen or would have allowed it to happen.
I mean, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he has a reputation and career, and no one would want to be in that position. It's just the shaping of you know what society can potentially do as far as your image, and that's why it's so important for all of us. You know what I mean? We all have a name and likeness, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's important that whatever you are engaging in, that you have an awareness. You want to trust that the people that you're inviting have some decorum and etiquette to themselves, but you we're very on the money when it comes to people targeting. You know, you just never know people's agenda. And because we currently live in a society where there's just a lot of moving parts to even engaging in any type of activity, let alone putting, alcohol into the equation. Um, you know,
God, they crazy.
no, he looks so pretty.
Okay. Well, my wife is in the room, and she is dazzling her daughter and dazzling me and crippling herself if she doesn't watch out. Those hips don't move like they used to move, baby. Anyway, what is the number? 832-564-9609. 832-564-9609. I know without Gary I'm not nearly as exciting, and because if I go at Alessandra the way that I go after Gary, you might have a live killing on Facebook.
You say stuff like that.
Well,
It's very insensitive.
that's very insensitive.
Yeah, because it happened
Oh, it did?
recently.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
Who did it happen to?
Unfortunately, a husband and a wife.
While they were doing their Facebook Live, he killed her or she killed him.
He killed her.
For what?
Um,
No, this is Facebook Live, baby. It happened on a Facebook Live thing, and I guess Alessandra's reminding me that it is insensitive to mention something like that.
I mean, you don't. You. It, I don't. No one expects something, to happen. But
Okay, you're
yeah.
sitting on your comb, baby. But get off the comb.
So it was an influencer from Georgia was found unalived after writing in a post on Facebook, and her husband died by suicide after being stopped by police. Um, Pretty much it escalated. They were on live, uh, just expressing a lot of things within their relationship, and things got overheated in the conversation, and you know, I don't. I hope that it did not get captured as far as the act of it online, but I know that they were
All right, let's.
sharing. What?
No, I was just saying you have to speak up a little bit. Anyway, again, the number 832-564-9609, 832-564-9609. We will talk to you about anything that is within reason because we're Facebook Living and we are podcasting at the same time. 832-564-9609. My name is Michael Harris. If you've never seen me before, I was not always gray with a big gray mustache. In fact, I've been thinking about getting rid of the mustache. What do you think?
You get old, so you have to accept it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can't get rid of the gray hair. I was dyeing my hair at one time, and God sent me a message. I started swelling up. I actually can't dye anymore. Uh, well, I can dye, but I cannot dye my hair anymore. I thought that was a pretty good joke.
No, it wasn't.
Boy, you're such a barrel of laughs. Anyway, let's see, what else is going on? Well, I, well, one thing that I have done, uh, one thing that my daughter and I somewhat disagree on, but I understand where she's coming from. With all the problems with the electrical grid here in Houston, a salesman came by and offered us the opportunity to have some solar panels installed at no cost, and also to have one of those Tesla storage banks installed at no cost. All we had to do was buy our electricity from them, and when the electricity, if it went out, the solar panels would have stored up energy in order to keep the house running. I also, got a generator a few years ago and didn't have any problems with it until, I guess, a few weeks ago. I didn't get the Generac. I got, what is that thing? A Kohler. Got a Kohler. And the reason I got
Unknown caller.
the reason I got the Kohler was because it was well, the year before they had a problem getting parts for Generac, and Kohler was a little bit more expensive, but it was as not as widely used, and so I'm having a problem with it. One of the parts went out, and now I kind of regret getting the Kohler and not getting the Generac, because the Kohler dealers want $400 to $500 for a house call. They didn't tell you that. Okay. They didn't tell you that. In fact, one of them even said something like $600. And that is just kind of disturbing to me. And Alessandra is not too big on the idea of the solar panels, because there are businesses going around running all kinds of fraud on people. One of my friends, who will remain unnamed, actually had someone trying to sell one of his houses uh, to someone else. And we just have so many con men, and women out here who can be very convincing. And so, uh, you said they're not convincing?
No.
What are they there?
If you're kind, you're just easily able to be got. And you have to be logical about your interactions with people. And you have to, one, conning has many faces to it. And it's important that you understand that when you're making a decision, it's just like in anything. You want to plan for things, right? And so, like for you, prior to you deciding to invest in the Generac, we had gone years with the mini storms and the electricity, and as things progressed for you and mom, you recognized the necessity of it so that it would not, put a delay in that. And what happens is that you get to talking to people, and people mirror you. That's, especially in a con, is really great at mirroring you.
Okay, now the Generac wasn't a con. I mean, the Kohler wasn't a con. It was the fact that
I'm not saying that. I'm just speaking on
Okay.
given context. So, because you were saying that people are very convincing, and no, they're not. At the end of the day, you have to assess, why something is happening. And then you have to find the emotional connector. And so, the biggest thing is with a lot of people is everybody makes everything emotional.
What kind of SUV were you trying to buy initially?
How is that relevant? And it's not.
It's
not.
emotional.
No, it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm keeping it addressing generally speaking, just not associating anything about our own individual
We were talking
decisions.
I was talking about.
Well, you were saying that people are, or salesmen, what, I forget the statement that you made, and I'm like, no, they're not. Because at the end of the day, it's not something that you need. or we're even thinking about. And so,
What are you talking about? Are you talking about solar?
yeah, that's what we
Oh
were
no,
addressing.
no, it was something I've been thinking about.
No, well, if you were, you already have many people who we have relationships with that already are using it. So you utilize a tap network of associated reach. But some random person showing up at your house, you don't do that. You see what I'm saying?
No, it wasn't a random person who showed up at the house. It was someone who called, and I invited out.
Well, you shouldn't have done that.
Well, why not? If I'm interested in doing. Okay, callers, I think I need you. I think I've lost my help. Um, seven, no, it's 832-564-9609. 832-564-9609. I don't mind having the discussion because I brought it up so that um, we could discuss how best to do this if it's something that you want to do. And
What I was factoring, if that was my main question was the Tesla. Given the current state of where things are with Tesla as a company, and if that is going to be the resource that they're pushing, there's a lot of instability with Tesla right now. So when you think about making a decision with the instability of a company like what they have going on, I just think that it's worth pursuing other, options of information because
well, who else? What do you call those things? Uh, Power packs, energy banks.
yeah, I mean that's some research that can easily be done. There's people in the area that
Uh,
have them.
yeah, like, well, our sister-in-law has no Tesla,
Yeah, but that was she got that what years ago now.
and so you think they've gotten worse.
Okay, what I'm communicating, I use the word the instability of Tesla with everything going on in the current climate. There's a lot of instability, and so why jeopardize yourself investing in that solution with the instability of Tesla right now? Because if Tesla goes down, then what? And you're just stuck with that.
No, you can always buy another.
Right, but it's going to cost you double because there's costs associated with the current option now, you know? So all I'm communicating is that, yeah. So, do you need some water? You want some water?
Boy, this is turning into a real exciting podcast. Oh my God! I guess I did Gary more than I.
I mean, we're having. Okay.
Go, let her get you some water, baby. Just stay seated, okay? Anyway, um, I'd like to have a discussion, with you about that because, as you can see, um, Alessandra constantly questions my judgment, and me, I always like with the fact that my Kohler is out now, and they are
The water's right
basically,
there, Mama.
uh,
Right there.
I guess you could say hijacking me. Um, I just wanted you all to be aware that you, well, don't make the mistake that I did because almost anybody can, I think they use, Generac uses Briggs and Stratton, and, you know, other people can buy Briggs and Stratton parts. Um, but the only way that you supposedly can get Kohler parts is you have to buy them through one of the authorized dealers. So as you go out looking to get, you know, backup generators, make sure that you do a better job than I did. I thought I had, but I didn't. In terms of, it ran for 2 years without any any major problems. But the idea of having to pay somebody $500 or $600 to come out and install a part to it uh, is I guess you could say a pretty big no-no for me. And so,
That's they trip fee.
yeah,
You didn't ask that at the initial conversation?
yeah, they said, they told me, so I did not buy it. I bought the generator. I thought that I could get somebody else to install it. Like we have somebody else servicing it. I did not know that they did not sell their parts to anybody but their.
I
their
mean, you knew that.
No, I didn't.
You got.
I can go to a Ford dealership, a Lincoln dealership, a Dodge dealership, and buy parts to a car. You, they offer warranties, but they don't say that we only sell it to the dealers. That was something that caught me totally off guard. Maybe they're lying. I've got to call them and see. But supposedly they only sell them to dealers. And I think that's important for people to know. Because the dealer can then charge whatever he or she wants to charge in order to get it done. That does that's the situation there. That's what I find so frustrating. And one of the reasons that I brought up the conversation about the power supplies, because many, the solar panels and all of that, because people are being approached, and we need to talk about things like this so that people won't fall victim to them. Now, certainly I don't mind. I'm going to have to get it redone, but I just want people to be aware that everything that glitters is not necessarily gold.
And all I'm communicating is the good thing is that you have the option with one company. You can get everything's complimentary at this stage, right? They want to earn your business with this solar panel company. So then you go and find other options as well, you know. So
Okay.
just to come.
832-564-9609. Well, this time is moving rather quickly. Got 30 more minutes, but we're going to have to do things to make it more exciting. And I'll make sure that Gary is here the next time and that we do more upfront um, notification. But basically, we're going to be doing what days, Ms.
I'm
Harris?
not getting into that because you keep going back and forth with me. So you
No,
choose the date.
you
Tell the people.
isn't she a joy?
You don't like to, you know,
No,
lock something in.
if you were telling what days that we said we were going to do, I'm just trying to
I gave my suggested date. You said otherwise, so it's gonna be whatever you say to them.
whatever Gary and I come to an agreement on. All right, you see how much joy we have in this family, don't you?
We have a lot of joy, Mama. Ain't that right?
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh boy, they
Yes, we do.
Well, thank you, Miss Wanda Coleman Boudreaux. Yes, I definitely am looking out for him. I am dead.
well, you don't have to be so cynical about it.
Not being cynical. I'm just
No, I no
might come up in a time
but
where
but I ask you just to give us the dates for the.
no, she talking about the information on the panels and or solar panel and generator.
Well, I'm going to have the lawyer look them over.
I'm just making reference to what she was saying. That's
Right,
all.
I said you said that you were looking out for me, and I said I'm going to have a lawyer look at the contract. But based on um, the weather situation and based on the, and it's not a Generac, it's
A cover, you said that.
what?
You said a cover.
No, it's not a it's not a,
Well, that's the word you used.
really?
Yes.
Okay. Cover?
That's what you said. You said it wasn't a Generac, and you said it was a cover.
Oh, really? Okay, boy, I must be losing my mind. Um, anyway, since people are facing these challenges,
What challenges are people
it's a
facing?
Kohler, Kohler,
Okay, Kohler.
Kohler. Since people are faced, well, look, uh, elevators that don't work in senior citizens' homes, people who go without electricity
I
for,
mean, let's talk about that because I really wanted to shed some light.
oh,
People may not know, but I had the pleasure of serving the senior citizen community. I
oh,
don't want to identify where it was, but
okay, would you speak up a little bit more?
I served the senior citizen community as a property manager at a mid-rise property.
Why don't you come on over so they can see you? Oh, you don't want to be seen.
I mean, I'm talking.
Perhaps so be seen.
I'm just wanting to share this information. It is important that we understand our abilities as people to solve problems. It would be nice for the government to care about certain things that are happening in our community. However, a lot can get done quicker and faster by people themselves. So it is very important to understand when I worked as a property manager at one of these communities, if it is being government funded, there are certain guidelines and responsibilities that have to be upheld, and there are also responsibilities from the property manager that that individual can decide to properly budget for to make sure that certain repairs are made. Thank you, Simpson. I wasn't prepared to be on camera today, so I'm just supporting from the sidelines, but maybe next time. Appreciate your support, Simpson. And so, as we have this conversation about all of the things that senior citizens are going through, we should be putting in the plan of where are the contractors, like how you have attorneys that do pro bono cases. Where are the contractors that have a heart for the community, have been long standing in the community, and are willing to support in ways that are needed? Now, electrical matters or repair for an elevator obviously is a hefty bill. I'm not pertaining or saying that. However, there's a lot that can be done in rallying together in creating the solutions, and I think that that's what we have to get in better habits right now as a community of people is, you know, minimizing our distractions, minimizing talking about things so much so to where, you know, we forget what can actually be done for ourselves and what we actually are willing to tap into our own networks and say, hey, you know somebody that's really good at, you know, repairing cabinets? Oh, yeah. You know what? I have a cousin that does that. Oh, really? You know, well, we would love for him to come down, you know, the senior citizen community. It's, you know, and not leading with they don't have the resources or the money. Because a lot of times places have money. It's been just misused. And so I don't know the current circumstance of what's being highlighted right now in the media, and I know that there was someone that you mentioned that you were close to. that had something to say towards it, but you know, some type of standard should be put in place as individuals saying, you know what, I'm going to bring this to the attention for a week. After a week, I'm going to get together with the community in the building, the residents in the building, and get a petition signed or whatever your organizing looks like. And then I'm going to go out and see if we can find 2 or 3 contractors that will be willing to um, support the community, figure out what money can be raised, even if it's $5, even if they take $5, hey, donate here $5, a lot can add up. We see it across the world in ways where people are inspired by certain events that they see take place, and they find a way to raise the funds. And so, I just wanted to give that perspective because I've been there as a property manager. You're working with a building that, has some very much a lot of tenure. I don't know the circumstance of what this property looks like, but I knew when I was in that role.
Sorry.
I knew when I was in that role, the caring commitment that I upheld in serving the community. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the community is living on fixed income, and whatever way that I could, that was doing a basket drive where, since they live in a mid-rise, I, got people to donate baskets where if they go, metro transportation and they have those, compact baskets that they could use and transfer it, their necessities from the store to their home, little ways that I supported in, making sure I did a great job in upkeeping the property. And so if that was inspections and, getting funding needed, to be able to do repairs, whatever the case may be. But, I just want us to remember we're people first and we're people solution first. So meaning we come together, organize, have an agenda, even if we make a list of 10 things that needs to be done, but we take action based on our own network and association to get it done. It'd be nice to hear your thoughts on the information that I shared, or just from my perspective. What do you think?
Oh, certainly. We have to be proactive, but you have to remember for every action there is a reaction. And
But is it? Is it? For every good action, there's a reaction?
well, for every action there is a reaction.
And so, what does that mean?
It means that you had a willingness to do so. Not every person may necessarily feel that way. Uh, did you see the video that I posted with Henrietta McLemore? Okay. Well, this is out in Missouri City, and they have been without elevators now for a couple of months. And I think she lives on the 4th floor, and she can't walk up and down that 4 flights of stairs. She's on a walker now. She grew up with that never. She's been a friend all my life. And they had security guards out in front of the housing complex blocking Congressman Green, Al Green, and others who wanted to go in and meet with the citizens there and see the conditions there, since they had not had an elevator in, I guess, about 2 months.
Okay.
The elevators aren't working. So you have the spirit to work with people and to try to get help. For some reason, the people who are running that complex don't have the same spirit. They haven't fixed the elevators, and we're trying to stop the congressman and his entourage from going in, with the cameras and stuff to show what was actually going on.
Well, someone brought something to my attention not too long ago. There's a broader conversation that, should be centered in this as well, is when we think about the conditions that our community, meaning, the elderly black community, has to result to because of limited resources or lack of family support or whatnot. So then I think about where uncle one of our uncles is in that type of condition. Some of these places shouldn't even be open. But the demand is so high, and I guess it's a form of slumlording, I guess you could say. And that's what you face a lot with, I don't want to assume that the property she's at is any type of government funded, but I've worked at two properties, and, there's a lack thereof from a sense of, of treating minorities, black people, because I'd rather center it around what I know my experience is, to care enough to say, you know what, this is not conditions. I wouldn't even want my own family member to have to face this. But say that they have family members come over. They don't let the congressman in, then they let their young grandkids come in. They do a video, you know what I mean, and post the videos and things of that nature.
Well, I was just pointing out that it's not necessarily always that easy, because the people who are owners quite often are in it just for the money.
Right.
They are not concerned about the people who live there. And I think the government needs to do a better job of making them.
But we know that that's not realistic. I mean, when
Or,
you,
okay, if not making them, then helping them.
and that's not realistic either.
Why is it not realistic? If we can, baby, come sit down, cause go help her.
I'm like, no, you already asked her about the milk this morning. She said, did she take a medicine?
I gave it to her.
Just have a seat, okay, Mom?
Um, and I'm just talking about making this stuff necessary, having it be against the rules. Just like if how they can uh, say that a grocery store is not clean and close it down for a while. I mean, just simply make it so that these
Unknown
people
caller.
have to maintain their stuff.
My number keeps calling.
Um, I'll block it.
Well, here's what I'm saying is, the reality is not realistic about the government caring, because we know the current government's interest and agenda. So the alternative is, we know that there's building regulations that have to be followed, permit, all the things that come from a building perspective, and for them to be able to uphold, like, I don't know if they're getting any type of assistance or whatnot, but you can know the information on when was the last inspection. Like, we had to have the elevators. That was not a negotiable when it came to the elevators. But I also know that the elevators constantly had some issues on a regular basis because of the building, how long the building had been up, and it needed a major upgrade. And so, you deal with slumlording in a way where it's a lot of holding out, so they're trying to sell the building and get acquired, and so they're doing as minimal as possible. There's a lot of behind the scenes, so if you can find out the why as to this property manager not treating this with urgency, you can look at the history of, okay, who's the management company that's owning this property? What does their portfolio look like? And do they have a history of this type of behavior? And then from there, then, obviously, and I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I'm just trying to give other alternatives, because we know our current government, look at all of the things that they're trying to take from senior citizens. You see what I'm saying? So let alone have the care and investment to actually uh, make sure that the living quarters are up to conditions that they would want their own loved ones staying in. It's unfortunate, but compassion and empathy and understanding is so disposable now. No one has interest, no one has time for that. But, that's my take. And
Well, there's you made some very good points. Um, my principal thing is that government sticks its nose into so many things. Like right now, they are, the transgender thing, the civil uh, rights thing, all the different things that government.
But it comes across that government sticks its nose in things as of lately with this government based on what they can control, the narrative that they can control or dominate.
And all I'm saying though is that if we make it so that okay, since we were talking about power before and the things that I've tried to do since I'm on dialysis and your mom is, disabled, trying to make sure that we can have lights and air conditioning, and water and things like that. Um, the citizens are put in a position to where we have to spend our extra income to bolster something that they do control. We have uh, you know, governmental agencies that regulate utilities, and they should make them do things that guarantee us that we have power. Oh, you don't think that they should?
I mean, I think that that's whimsical.
Why is it
I think that's
whimsical?
hopeful. I mean, but we know what this current government's care is about. And at the end of the day, you know, it's looking through the lens of things from a rich person's perspective.
Well,
And
but
when
that's only because we have allowed it to be so. There needs to be a change in the narrative rather than that they can run things. All they can buy politicians, but they can't. We voters should not allow ourselves to be bought, like the Negroes who uh, get a chance to be the one in 1,000, and then they start thinking they're white or that they're above anybody. We have to focus on the fact that what you do to the least of me is what you will do to the rest of us.
but if you are not even you don't even compute like how whiteness and you know and limited view from their lens you're not even considered, you're not even
No,
factored.
and I'm talking about, but we have to do that. There are more of us than it is of them. There are more have-nots than there are haves.
Right, but I also think like I will always at any point I will always at every point say this and because I care while I have the blessing of you and mom here. I still have to live in this world when you're not here.
What does that
So
have to do with what we're talking about?
I'm getting to my point. You're saying that it's the have and the have-nots. Well, we recognize that. We do understand that. But the reality, people don't care about certain things that are affecting, I guess you could say, day to day. If you're saying the government needs to be doing this and they need to be doing that, at the end of the day, the people have power in which can be done for themselves. So all I'm saying is, how do we stop being so distracted, get some focus, and take care of the list of things that needs to happen to where, as a body of people, that we can actually have progress versus being in a position. Because one thing that we know, if the people move in a direction that benefits and gives the solution to the problems themselves, then the government is going to try to come and put themselves into the center of it. But the masses now is like, well, we did it ourselves. We didn't need you. So if we figure out how to not only we can be dependent on the government and the resources, but also be dependent on our self resources as well. That's all I'm just trying to, you know, hopefully open up the conversation on how to expand our abilities as people to know that we are in this current day society where, yes, the least of things, it happens to the rest of everyone. But how do we move past that narrative and become or be positioned in a way it's like, okay, we don't always have to be saying the least of these and I've heard you say that for years. But how do we move forward? That's all I'm asking.
By organizing.
Exactly. So organizing. So let's talk about it. Maybe on this platform, that's what we do. We help. You and Gary can give direction on what that organizing looks like. What next? What step? Like, let's use Haranetta's situation. Yes, she was able to get.
Henrietta.
I'm sorry, Henrietta's situation. Now that she has the media attention, what should be happening from the local, like their impacted level? They've brought awareness, which is amazing. Now what?
And that's where government comes in. Either.
But they need their elevator fixed today. So, what a part of the government process?
Their facilities like that, I think you well know since you worked in them, are licensed by the government.
Right, and so that's what I'm saying. The property, like you, to keep your funding, you have certain um, code, and it's right there. You have certain things that you have to uphold to be able to maintain that funding. So the first question is, how was the building able to continue? And maybe they're not up for their inspection. But I know now, since it's gotten some attention, the hope is that the people that are part of that process, then they'll be coming and popping up on them and saying, hey, this made the local news. We need to figure out what's going on. But the government, that whole process, there's a lot of in between. So for the right now, what is the solution? So my thought is, hopefully someone that is a local business says, you know what, this isn't right and we want to do something about it. And they could be able to go repair it. Hopefully it's not a crazy part that needs to be, needed at the time, or whatever part is needed, it can be easily accessed. And then a local, company can actually fix it.
Well, I understand and I agree in principle. I just take it a little bit further because if President Trump decides he wants to fly to Florida to his resort to play golf.
That's the distraction, though.
How's that a distraction?
Because we want to talk about.
Because you didn't let me finish my.
Well, you had said it earlier, so that's the only.
What did I say earlier?
The same thing about how he went to Florida and playing golf, and how we can have this money to do all these other things.
Yeah. So how's that a distraction? It's a reality. It's not a distraction.
Okay, what I'm communicating, that it's a distraction on his part. Like, he doesn't care about issues that don't impact him directly. And that's really how a lot of people are.
Okay, but we elect the people who allow this to happen. That we can spend money on BS or kissing someone's behind, but we don't take care of the citizens of this country by making those persons who have the resources do what they are supposed to do for those who don't.
I understand that, and you're right. However, what is that like? We already know that they are going to continue being who they are.
Only if we let them.
Right, but what is the in-between work that is done to hold them to not just talking about this all the time, but actually it being effective in changing their behavior?
Well, telling the people who who run the what is it, health and safety commissions, inspections commissions, whatever, put those people who are in charge on notice that you have thus and such, or we're going to shut you down and take away your money. Because you can't make money if you're closed. Just treat them the same way
but
that
then that displaces the people who need the current housing.
then you take it and you find other places for them. We build football stadiums, basketball stadiums, baseball stadiums, all at taxpayer money, and we lease them out to these rich people for them to get richer. When they get old, they move away from them, and we renovate them. So if we can invest in the rich, we can invest in our poor.
But there's no return on investment. How
The,
their
the, the,
logic.
the investment is our money. It is taxpayer money that these people use. The government doesn't have products that they sell. They tax our money. And if they're going to take care of somebody with our money, it should be the people who need it the most, not the rich, not the famous.
But
It
this
should,
has been going on for years.
but
and
that's
years.
why we have to change it to
Right.
make it help the people, not the rich.
But if you don't even have an example of how to change it. You can't come up
No,
with.
we start voting for people who are focused on the people. And
Okay, here's what
the
happens.
rich people buy elections. But Donald Trump bought this election.
Right, but at the end of the day, this is what happens, and we know this.
But what if you can't be bought?
Everybody can be bought because no matter your circumstance, depending on if it's a circumstantial matter, then you can be bought. It doesn't make it right. I'm not agreeing to that, but here's another perspective to look at. Okay, you're right. At the end of the day, we have to stop getting the wrong people in office. But power changes people. So here's the part. What if you thought you got the right person in the office? They ran a campaign based on the things that align with with what you said you wanted, what they were going to do. Then, when they had the power, then it changed. And that is a part of the component that's a problem as well. Is that, oh, it's such a machine, it's such a muscle, we can't, you know, we there's so much red tape,
Hmm.
so they exhaust you. You know what I mean? So they exhaust you.
Okay. Well, it's 1 o'clock,
Okay.
and
You need
uh,
to take those off.
it's about time to uh, close. But you see how we can utilize this platform to talk about, you know, things, and we would love to have you take a part in it. Uh, why don't you write this number down? 832-564-9609. 832-564-9609. I might even have Alessandra teach me how to set this stuff up so that we can do it more often than
Yes,
maybe
that would be awesome. And thank you. This was
once a week.
nice. I'm glad we were able. This was a good conversation we had. Go ahead.
Yeah, she likes to argue with me.
No, I like to expand your perspective because, like the comment I was making is, I have to live past y'all's time as well. And my hope is that I can gain insight and wisdom from you on your lived experiences and partner in that. I want to have things to hold on to that are, for me, rooted in integrity and standard about life. And so that's why I try to help expand the perspective that on how do we look at these things as a whole, because we know the emotional side of it. They continue to not do us right. We know that. And so my hope is just really just bringing the perspective from what, my generation discusses, and then what you've lived through, and, currently kind of have your perspective on what's going on with the current events.
Okay. Well, for those of you out there, to make it plain for you, I wish no one evil. Now, if evil people fall into it. Maybe that's, what do they call that? Maybe that's payback. But the bottom line is, we live in a society that takes care of the rich and exploits the poor. And somehow, no matter who we elect, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And there's something that we need to do, like I have to do about my color, because I'm not nearly this dark. Am I? No, I don't. Yeah, because man, I'm charcoal almost on this picture. Can we maybe look?
It don't have nothing to do with that. That's how God made you.
No, if you look at my chest, it's lighter. The sun has darkened.
You don't wear sunscreen.
I'm a black man. I don't need sunscreen.
That's not true. You can't do that. Skin cancer exists. You need to wear sunscreen.
Oh, okay.
And you need to, just kind of have some type of skin steps. But
Now she's telling me about my.
given. But no, thank y'all. We appreciate the love and support.
And call, talk to me. Yeah. I know you probably, Alessandra probably scared you.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully you all enjoy things, and we will see you. What day?
Is it Friday?
Yeah.
Okay. Unless Gary and I decide to do something a little quicker. And pray for Claudia. She's going through things. Gary's wife. Both Gary and I have had cancer, and Claudia and Yvonne have had cancer. Theirs is just a little more devastating than ours has been. And we'll pray for you too. And don't forget that number, 832-564-9609. This joker here, this is Crystal's dog. This is Polo. Polo should be spelled Painindv.
That's not his good side. Put him down. Don't.
That's the good side.
He need a haircut, y'all.
Okay.
My
Wooly
Polo does
bully.
love
Wooly bully.
him some Michael. He does.
Wooly bully. All right, come here, Tidbit.
Oh, come here.
Come here, Tidbit. Miss Bit. Miss Bit is. Come here, Miss Bit. Miss Bit weighs twice as much. Now this is Tidbit. Now she may have been a tidbit at one time, but she is more than a tidbit. She is a large load for a small dog. And Miss Bit is Polo's master. You talking about a whip man? Polo is whipped. Isn't Tidbit?
Look at you, Tidbit.
Yeah, look at Tidbit.
Oh,
You see yourself, Tidbit?
Oh, you look so nice.
We about the same color, Tidbit.
Come here, Polo.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, you've met my grand dogs, and
You're not good.
but
Polo is my dog.
anything you want to say,
Come here,
Tidbit?
Polo. Come here, Polo.
No kisses. No kisses.
No
Nah.
Come here, Polo.
My kisses are reserved for Yvonne.
Yeah, Polo is my
yeah.
dog.
Are they talking about it? They're talking about it. Oh,
Come here, Polo.
you was on camera too? Yeah.
Come on, Polo.
Okay. All right. So thanks for joining us. And next time, write down the number now. 832-564-9609.
Tell them you're going to post more so they'll know when to expect you.
And I'll be posting more, letting you know when we'll be coming on, etc. We're going to make that a priority. And have a great day. God bless you. We love you. And see you next time.
Hey, Polo.